Hey everyone, this is Tierra coming to you guys. This is, I believe, my third video. This video, I will be discussing the physical abuse pertaining to, my relationship, my marriage. Now, it may not be all of it, but it may even be more than one video also because it was a lot to talk about. So I would like to start with, the beginning. Coming into a marriage where I didn't expect what a marriage was supposed to be like. I never knew because I did not have an example growing up. I did not have an example, in my household. When I met my husband, I was in the military, and so coming from a strong household, a strong woman household. My mom was very strong. She, taught us how to, do for ourselves, not to have to depend on others, but, to do for ourselves. So I didn't really have that example of a marriage, to look at. My mom didn't get married until I was 13. But there was really, I can't look and see where I could turn to for an example of a healthy Christian marriage. I can't, other than Bishop Stokes and Lady Marsha Stokes, which I wasn't around them all the time, Sundays, and at that time it was Fridays for Bible study. So coming into a marriage, it was like I was going in blindsided, okay, we're learning as we go. My husband, he was in a family. His mom and dad was married for about, I believe it was like 20-something years. So, but their marriage was not up to par. They had issues, abusive issues, some issues that stemmed down into our marriage. That were never dealt with, that were never talked about, So basically, we both really didn't have any great examples to, have in the back of our minds. So, like I said, we were going in this blindsidedly. So a lot of the things, we were going off of our opinions on what we were to expect or what tradition told us, because of, what my husband went through or brought up in, he was brought up in an abusive household. He has told his testimony on YouTube before. He still has videos on there. I was brought up in, my father was not around. And, I didn't get affirmation from anyone. I was a loner. There's some issues that I will discuss maybe in my book about how I, came to be who I am. So, when we got married, we moved to Germany. That's where I was stationed, Landstuhl, Germany. And so that's where it all began. We were out there by ourselves. Of course, we had a church home out there, but we were getting to know each other for the first time. So imagine two people who don't know each other at all, and you're living together. Now, I didn't know his whole background. I didn't know everything he went through. He didn't know my background. I'm coming into the marriage thinking like, oh, this is going to be great. It even actually, the physical part started on the honeymoon. No, not the physical part. The anger started on the honeymoon. The physical part started in Germany, so when he came over there, there were some insecurity issues, so I didn't know what to expect. I was, just, I guess, treating it as another relationship. So when the abuse came, the physical part, I didn't know it was going to be continuous as it was for the whole 5.5 years. It was off and on, of course, but I didn't know it was going to be continuous like that. So I know there were times where when I was pregnant with Zaria, my first child, you know, things like him pushing me to the ground and kicking me. And I can't remember the reason why he actually did that. But, I mean, of course, when you're abused, you remember the abuse. You don't remember what happened that got you to that point. But it shouldn't matter, because no amount of anything should cause anyone, any person, to put your hands on another person. For one, we are God's creation. I am God's creation. He is God's creation. We are all equal. There's no reason for no one to place themselves high above the next person to cause abuse towards them. So God said vengeance is his. So I'm not worried about that. I'm at a better place. This is why I can speak on the abuse, and thank God that he's brought me through. So that was one issue. You know, another issue, and then we took a little trip. We took a little trip. Actually, we took a couple little trips while over in Germany, which was my favorite part. But this trip consisted of us going to, I think, Frankfurt. We were in the hotel, you know. Me, you know, I wasn't used to someone like him, you know. You know, we went on a budget of, over there is euros, so we went on a budget, let's just say dollars. We went on a budget of $100 together for the, I believe it's 3 days or 2 days, so $50 each. So that's what we were going to use. So, you know, unfortunately, the last day, you know, I still had money left over because I learned to budget wisely while living in Edgewood, Maryland, from my financial advisor. You know, I had about probably like $20 left, and we went and we sat down to eat. And I was ordering a meal, and he wanted the same thing. And I'm like, well, you don't have enough. And I'm like, how are you going to get that? And I don't know what his issue was, but I guess he felt or thought that I was going to cover the rest, or I was going to go into our finances and pull out more. You know, I wasn't trying to be controlling at all. Now, if he felt that way, I apologize. But he agreed to the budget in the beginning. And I said, Milton, this is not fair. You know, I mean, of course, his name is out there, but I said, this is not fair that you are doing this. You know, he got angry, upset. I said, you know what, let's just go. So we walking outside, and he was angry at how it went down, and next thing I know, he's throwing a Bible at my head outside. And I ducked, thank the Lord, he didn't hit me. And there were people outside, and I just, you know, started crying. I'm like, how in the world is this going on? I never would have expected this. You know, never. You know, I've seen abuse, you know, growing up. Actually, I didn't see it. I you know, saw the results of it. But I never would have expected this. And, you know, I never would have expected to keep going also. So, you know, for one who would say, you know, someone's in a physically abusive marriage, how does one stay in it for so long? How does one take it, you know, for so long? Like, if it was me, I would get up and leave. Forget that. It's not that easy. You would not think that someone who you're married to will continuously abuse you in a way where, you know, that, you know, would continuously abuse you to the point where you must leave. You know, when God put us together, he said, let no man put asunder. So throughout the marriage, I'm like, okay, God, you put us together. So what's going on? Why are we going through this? I'm like, God, why are you allowing this? You know, so even throughout the marriage, you know, it was a point where I had to, you know, being in the military, I'm like, okay, I can't have this. There were times where he came to my job because of some insecurity issues, breaking stuff in my job. Thank God nobody else was there, because it would have been so embarrassing for me. But as he was walking out the door, my supervisor, my NCO, was walking in. And I was like, Lord, he was angry. I'm like, God, how is this happening? What in the world is going on? So, you know, it got to a point where the enemy was using him. And he was threatening me. And I was afraid. I had my daughter. She was about, I just had her in June. At the end of, I had her June 11th. But this was at the end of June where this was going on. Where, you know, he was watching some scary movies, which he loved. And, you know, he was, you know, threatening me. It wasn't him. It was a demon. And I knew it. And I was sitting there still. I could not move. I had Zaria holding on to her. I could not move. I was so afraid. I had no idea what to do. Mind you, I was still a babe in Christ. I didn't know what to do. I called my pastor. I was, you know, she was communicating with me. One of the ministers, she told me, you know, call the police. And I kept saying, I don't want to. You know, this is my husband. I don't want to call the police. But I had to because so much stuff has gone on since then. I didn't know what was going on. He was saying so much stuff. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I called the police. You know, they came and basically they came and retrieved me. My senior leaders, they came retrieve me. I had to call them. I didn't want to. I didn't want nobody in my business. So I called them. They came. They took me to a hotel. Me and Zaria stayed there for about, I would say about a month. They had to send him back to the States. But before they sent him back, we had counseling, you know. So even, you know, I'm thinking, you know, great, this is time for him to go back and prepare, you know, get himself together, you know. Let me also inform some of you who don't know. Germany is where the biggest satanic church is. Maybe Europe, where the biggest satanic church is. So we weren't just, you know, coming against our own personal attacks against each other, but it was spiritual attacks. We saw things crazy where we're sitting in a vehicle in our car and we were praying together and the car just started shaking. He saw the demon surrounding the car, just shaking the car. You know, on our windows, we had these open bay windows, really beautiful. If you've ever been in Germany, you know what I'm talking about. Handprint, claw prints, nail prints about this long on top of the handprint. And I would put my hand, I'm like, that's not my hand. So we knew what it was. But the fact that we didn't fight as hard as we needed to, you know, I think that's what, you know, what was the, you know, the reason for us not succeeding. One of the reasons. But God gives us choice. He gives us free will. You know, he tells us to choose this day whom you're going to serve. So, and he said no temptation. You know, he gives us a way of escape for every temptation. So there's no excuse. And he won't put more on us than we can bear. So there is no excuse for someone to abuse anybody. Anybody. Because there's always something that you hear is telling you to stop or don't do it. But you choose. Like Cain and Abel, the story of Cain and Abel, where Cain killed his brother. Why? He just wanted to. I mean, that was the voice in his head. God asked him, you know, or you know, you need to check your anger, basically. But anyway, back to the story. You know, the military sent him back. You know, he blamed me for it, of course. But it wasn't all my fault. I'm sorry. I will never own up to that. It was not all my fault. I tried to work it out. I was living in fear every single day. Every day. I couldn't sleep at times because I didn't know if he was going to do something to me. That was the life I lived. I was afraid. I had to make sure he was at peace before I closed my eyes and went to sleep because I did not know what in the world was going on. So when we get back, he got back over here. He, you know, got us a place. Yeah, you asked me, well, why did you go back and live with him? I don't know. I don't know. I thought, you know, that it could still work out. I don't know why I went back. I don't know. I mean, other than the issues that I had, with the military making me find a child care provider if I was to deploy for 24 hours or whatever, that was an issue. And I was ready to get out the military. So, but we got back here. He was back for about 6 months, I believe. And I came back in January. Actually, February 19th, I believe. Yeah, February 19th, I came back. So the issues didn't stop. Of course, all that was replaying in his mind over and over again. I had to deal with it. Him blaming me. I had to deal with all of that. So, other things happened. I'm going to talk about that more in the book. There were very, very vulgar, aggressive, anger issues. I'll speed up to an issue that happened March 20th. I believe it's the 20th or 21st, 2014. Now, this was a time where I was upstairs, with Zaria. We was living in his mom's house right around the corner from the church. He didn't want nobody to know. We were living in the house. I was getting Zaria's clothes together in the small room, and something happened where he yelled from downstairs and said, something, you little girl. And me, I'm like, what in the world? Something, you little boy. That didn't. He took off, stormed upstairs. I ran in the room with Zaria, closed the door, locked it, and sat in the corner. I didn't know what was going to happen. He broke down the door. He grabbed Zaria, took her out the room. As he took her out the room, I tried to get out, and I couldn't. He pushed me to the floor on top of these garbage bags. All I had on was a robe. He pushed me, threw me to the floor, climbed on top of me, put his hands on my neck, and choked me. I died. I died for I don't know how long, because our time is no way to compare to what God's timing is. I died. I heard the angels' voices. So I woke up. Thank the Lord. He awakened me, and I cried. I didn't know where I was. I cried. I cried and I cried, and all I saw was him walking in the hallway, looking at me, walking past, looking. So my husband suffered from bipolar disorder, bipolar and schizophrenia. Before I met him, I didn't know. So I believe these were some of the things that were coming up because of the disobedience. So that was another issue. This actually, it happened in 2014. But what led up to our separation, so there was much more abuse. Some things consisted of me being spit on while I'm driving. He'll just spit on me, will hit me, throw stuff at me. And I'm like, God, why is this happening? What did I do? It was, to me, because of my words, or, I don't know, it was just him being angry. And no matter what I said, like I recently, starting in September, I would, I'm like, Lord, I don't know what's going on. This is when he pulled away. He pulled away from the marriage. I was fighting the marriage. September last year, fighting. He was gone all the time. Didn't want to be around me. Wanted a divorce, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. We gotta make this work. And I'm staying at home with the kids, cooking dinner. Still doing my schoolwork. I was getting my second master's. Taking 2 to 3 classes at a time. Making dinner, going grocery shopping, washing clothes. Spending time with the kids, dealing with him, dealing with his mother, who was another issue. Me and her, she just didn't like me for some apparent reason. Didn't spend time with me. Didn't communicate with me. She was one way outside of the house. When she came in the house, she went straight to her room. Did not speak much. She's seen a lot of the things. She heard a lot of things going on, and God showed me in a dream where she heard him abusing me, but she just laid there in her bed and just ignored it. I mean, she was abused. They abused my husband when he was growing up. So, she couldn't do much because she didn't know what to do, I guess. I mean, she went through it. She could have told me something, but that wasn't the case. And I'm like, Lord, why am I going through this? Why is she not helping me? But anyway, I was, doing everything that I need to do, praying, asking God, how can I get out of this? And I asked God, Lord, if you give me a way out, I will take it. All throughout from September to December, when I graduated, even coming back from my home state, New Jersey, there were issues. Him yelling at me, calling me all types of names. That's the verbal abuse part that I will, talk briefly on soon. I just had enough. I said, God, I can't do it anymore. I was living in fear every single day. He one time stood over me and said, I will slit your throat. I said, okay. I said, I'm sorry. Let's just calm down. I didn't know what was going on. He was angry at, I guess, because of how I responded, which I didn't respond any type of way on the phone. It was just, I was talking just like this. And I don't know, he has dealt with a lot of things, the statement, hurt people hurt people. So he had a lot of anger and bitterness, when he said one time, when he seen me, he seen his mother. And I'm like, I don't know how that's possible, So it was a lot of physical abuse, a lot. It was so much pain. But now I can speak that God has freed me from that. Thank the Lord. I thank God for that and I don't have to worry about, going into the next relationship that's going to happen because God has delivered me from that. He has paved the way. He knows who my new husband is, and I'm speaking that. He knows that. And he told me he's going to give me a new husband. So I didn't have to suffer. I thought I had to go through all of that suffering to get what God has for me, and that's not the case. So for those of you who are out there who are going through abuse and think that you have to go through it and you don't want to tell nobody, it's wrong. God is not in that. He loves you. He loved me. And people told me, you need to get out. I'm like, how? How can I get out? I spent not all my life, but I spent majority of my last couple of years with him. How can I just up and leave? I didn't know the first step to get out. I think it was I don't know, like I didn't want to go to no shelter. I didn't want to go, call the cops. I didn't want to ask for help because I didn't want people in my business. I was too busy trying to protect my marriage. But God loves you. He doesn't want you dealing with that. So if you're in it now, just seek God on how to get out. He will make a way of escape for you. You no longer have to suffer in it. I ask God that he will do that very thing for you if you really desire. And I told God with my whole heart, Lord, take me out. I don't want this anymore. You have to say it to know he believes it. He knows, but you have to say it out your mouth that you want out. Don't suffer longer than what you need to. You are fearfully and wonderfully made in his image and his likeness. There's no reason that God would want you to suffer through another person putting their hands on you or even verbally abusing you where you feel so low that you don't even see yourself as God sees you. There's no reason for you to have to go through that. So when you can find a way out, when somebody comes to you and say, I see what you're going through, let me help you. Or if they don't, go to someone who you trust and talk about it. Don't be afraid. Don't think that you have to stick in it because the word says God does not like divorce. God doesn't like men or women abusing his children either. He's not going to let you just sit in it and be hurt. That's not love. Love is not abuse. If God is love, God doesn't abuse us. So that's not love. Abusing someone is not love. So now I can truly thank God. Of course, I can thank him then for keeping me through that whole ordeal. It was rough. 5.5 years of abuse. And it wasn't like it was every day. So it was, it went on quite some time. Some people I've talked to knew that, I was going through it. I, reached out to people. Then at one point I felt like I was, you know, exposing my husband or talking about him when I was really, really seeking help on what to do. But then when some people told me, go to a shelter, I'm like, okay, never mind. I didn't tell them that, but I'm like, no, that's not the answer I want to hear. I don't know. It was just an answer I was looking for was, okay, I don't know, stick it out. But when someone told me to stick it out, I'm like, no, you don't know what I've been through. And God told me, said to leave, you need to leave. I'm freeing you from your marital covenant, and it's time for you to leave. They did not agree. They said, no, you need to stick it out. I'm like, but then they said, I wouldn't have went through it that long. But then you're telling me to stick it out. Come on. Now, that's just foolishness. So, if you're going through it right now, know that God has something much greater, much better for you. You do not have to endure that suffering. Jesus already died on the cross for the suffering of this world. He did not want you to suffer more through a person who was equal to you. There's no reason for you to have to suffer for that. What's the purpose? What is God getting out of it? There's no glory coming out of that. What's the glory? Where's God's glory? God would not want you to endure that. So if you are going through, please, if you need to reach out to me, I can help you the best way I can. And that is with the help of the Holy Spirit. Because God has done it for me, He can do it for you. Now, I'm no perfect person. I didn't say I was perfect throughout the marriage, but God has kept me, and I thank Him for that. And now, I don't have to deal with that anymore. Of course, I have to deal with the residue of, the relationship being separated. I'm not walking in fear anymore. I don't have to look behind my back or, be afraid when He says He's going to come to where I am. Because God already told me, He said He's going to seek me, but He's not going to be able to find me. Because God is protecting me with His angels, His guardian angels over my life. I thank God for that. God is awesome, guys. He's awesome. He's a keeper for those who don't even know how to be kept. He's a keeper. He is a keeper. He's our Father. He's our friend. He loves us. He doesn't want you to have to suffer. If you're going through anything, whether it's abuse or anything else, He doesn't want you to suffer. But you have to come to Him and say, God, I need you. I need your help, God. I need your help. He's there. He said that this suffering that I endured on this cross is for you. There's no special thing that you need to come to me. You don't have to get rid of everything. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm the one that's going to take care of your addiction, your abusive ways, your hatred. I'm going to take care of your bitterness. Come to me, all ye who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Come to Him. I just pray that you guys who are suffering from physical abuse know it's not the end of the world. God loves you. He will make a way for you. Don't give up. Don't try to hurt yourself. Just ask God to help you, to heal you, to set you free. Now, if anyone is out there who are suffering, who needs someone to talk to, please reach out to me. I have a blog. You can go there. I have an email address which I will attach. So I pray that you guys hear this message and you take it and you receive it with love. Somebody out there cares for you. God loves you, and I do also. So I pray you guys have a blessed day, blessed evening. Love you guys. So I briefly talked about the physical part of my abuse in my marriage to a pastor. Yes, pastor again. Let me just add this. Because the title of pastor doesn't mean that he is above all, or he's, not able to make a mistake. He's still human. So, of course, the title pastor would draw people to, the subject at hand. Because too many people put the pastors on a pedestal to make them have to live above this standard, which is not fair. And I believe tradition and religion has, had a lot of issues, had a lot to, I guess, cause a lot on our marriage because we weren't able to freely, be ourselves. We had to hide our issues. We couldn't go and confess to our loved ones, to our brothers and sisters, because of us possibly being judged or because of, losing members. But that's crazy, though. But still, being a pastor's wife, being a pastor, him growing up, he wasn't always, he got things done to him. People, his classmates peed on him, peed on his ice cream, spit on his ice cream and peed on him. So he's dealt with a lot growing up. He was abused, like I stated. So, getting accolades when he has reached a milestone of becoming a pastor, when he was told he would never get past the age of 18, you want to hold on to that. When people honor you and pay you respect, you want to protect that. But that's not fair. People put the pastors and leaders on a pedestal, and when they fall, they're attacking them. They're, doing so much when they should be like, okay, we need to pray because this pastor could come up against some attacks because he is now in the limelight, and people might look at him as being perfect. So, all of you pastors out there, I understand. All the first ladies, you pastors' wives, I understand what you have to go through in order to protect your marriage, protect your family. But I really do pray that this world changes and stop putting these ministers, these leaders on a pedestal, because truthfully, we all are ministers. We all can be used the same way. It's just that the pastor said yes and continues to say yes, because he has a flock that he has to lead. I continued to say yes because I had to hold up his arms when he was dealing with stuff. So, for those of you who understand what I'm talking about, I really urge you guys to start praying for even your leaders. Not saying that they're going through any type of abuse, but there could be other issues that they're suffering with that they cannot talk about because the congregation may look at them like, they're going through that, and I'm giving tithes, and I'm coming every Sunday to listen. Judgment. It's not fair. So I really do pray that, you guys will start praying for your leaders and not put them on a pedestal. But be on the lookout for my up and coming videos. The next couple of videos, I may talk a little bit more about the physical part. Not sure, but the next couple of videos will be on emotional abuse. I don't know how long that would be. It probably won't be too long because all of it, goes together. But it'll be emotional abuse, verbal, probably be the same. I'll probably do 2 in 1. But be prepared for that. Go to my blog, like I stated, Mrs.Tierra J, MRSTIERRAJ.wordpress, WORDPRESS.com. And my email address, which I will post if you guys need to reach out. So I pray you guys are blessed by this video. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free. All glory goes to God. And I thank God for being his servant. I thank him for using me to be his servant. So I love you guys again. God bless.